Hello and welcome back to Flint Hills Briar. I'm still Gareth, same as always. But yeah, just enjoying I guess it's not quite Sunday afternoon quite yet. Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Um, but yeah, I guess I hadn't. I think the last time I uploaded a video was before I did the Unbound race. I think it was before I headed down to Emporia. So yeah, this is how that went. I uh, I was thinking about doing this as one of my epic, like outdoor epic videos, and yes, in a way, it sort of applies to that, and in other ways, it doesn't really. So, not that it really matters. It's just a video title either way. But actually, yesterday I drove back out to the Flint Hills, more northern part that's just south of Manhattan, Kansas, where I'm from, and I did a like 80 something mile route that I actually had mapped out um, about a year ago, which I knew at the time was more that I could handle fitness wise. Uh, just the length of it and the all the ups and downs going over the Flint Hills, because it was the route you do like close to 6,000 vertical feet of climbing. Of course, it's broken up over the course of like 100 uphills or something. Um, but I knew I couldn't do that last year at this time last year, so I did a shorter route and enjoyed that a lot. So I thought, well, hey, I rode 100 miles in the Flint Hills a little bit further south of there, so it's like I think I'm in shape enough to do it. So I went and I did the ride yesterday. Oh yeah, I'm smoking some Sun Bear Tupelo from what, 2 years ago, 2023. That's right. And my Savinelli Tundra Canadian. I still like this stuff quite a bit, but it just seems like I'm not sure that the honey topping is as prominent as it used to be, or it's noticeable to me. It's still good stuff. Nothing else is a nice Virginia blend. But anyway, I went out and rode that route, and it was pretty humbling. It beat me up quite a bit. Those uphills, just the insistent up and down. And some of these roads are not. Some of them are pretty rough. Most of them have gravel or stone on them. It's not so much like nasty, like dirt roads, which are usually actually great to ride on as long as they didn't get muddy and then have somebody drive through them and create all these like mud ruts, then dry, and now you have like hard dirt ruts. So it wasn't really as much that, but there are places where the rock's pretty loose. The gravel rock, a lot of the gravel is pretty chunky and angular with all the flint and chert, and it can give your tires problems. I didn't have any flats, thankfully. Um, but yeah, it's really rugged riding, gravel riding in a lot of places, and in some of those climbs, some of the longer, there are a lot of short ups and downs. There's also some ones that are longer, and some of them get up to a pretty decently steep gradient. There's one section, which I did as like a kind of a standalone little ride before I went home. Um, I drove out to the spot and I did like a little 5 mile loop or something around it, and I was done for the day. It's called Little Egypt Road, and in the Unbound 200 course, this is in it, and it's kind of known as one of the more difficult parts of it. Last year, I'm pretty sure I pedaled up the whole part of the uphill part of the rode the whole thing. I did stop at the bottom and have to get going, which was very tricky, but pretty sure I rode up the whole thing. This time, I didn't even care. I walked my bike up the nasty part. And it's nasty because it's pretty steep, and the road surface, it has just these big like fist and like half fist sized chunks of rock, so it's pretty loose. And you almost have to ride it fast enough that it kind of keeps you stable. If you try cranking up it really slow, it really robs you of a lot of that stability, and you're more likely to fall over trying to do it. So anyway, last year when I rode that section of the road, all I had to do was get to the top of the climb, finish, what was left, like that last mile or whatever. Got back to my truck, I was going home. I was done for the day. This time around, I still had 25, 30 miles left of riding, and I was hoping that it wasn't going to be too difficult after that. So I just said, I don't even care. I walked my bike up that. But about half of the mileage on this 80-mile ride was part of the Unbound gravel race, the 200-mile course. And it was humbling. It really kicked me in the butt. But anyway, so when I did the Unbound 100 gravel race this year, just 2 weeks ago, it went really well. I overall, but I about 20 miles into it or so, I actually crashed. Early on in the race, obviously, there's more people riding more tightly packed in groups and that sort of thing. And I was riding down the road. We were probably going around 16 miles an hour or so. And there was this guy, and people are, everybody's kind of finding the speed that they're riding, that sort of thing. So some people are going by you, you're going by some people. I get behind this guy, older guy, but he was going just a little bit slower than what I wanted to ride. So I'm behind him. I'm starting to think, okay, which, do I need to go to the left or right? How do I need to work my way around him so I can get past him and keep going? About that time, next thing I knew, my front wheel about hit his back wheel. So I just kind of, knee-jerk reaction sort of thing. I sort of swerved just a little bit to the left. Couldn't get my foot unclipped out of the pedal. And I wound up coming down on my left side. And it didn't necessarily hurt all that much. I got up, kind of made sure that my bike sort of looked, the second I took to look at it looked fine, hopped on it, kept riding sort of thing. It turns out, I scraped up quite a bit on my left side. My left hip was the worst of it. It was bruised and actually had a pretty deep scrape, I guess, there, and it tore a hole in my bike shorts, which I wasn't thrilled about because they were practically brand new. And my left calf was scraped up pretty badly, scuffed up my shoe more than I already had been, scraped up my elbow. But other than that, I didn't tear up my jersey, which was nice. But it wasn't apparent to me at the time. I knew I ripped up the bar tape on my handlebars over there, but I also broke part of the shifter brake lever over there. I broke part of it off. I didn't even realize that until I was totally done with the race and actually got home. And I was looking at my bike thinking why the brake lever on that side looked kind of funny, and it turned out because part of it's missing. So I ordered another one of those, and they're not very cheap. So hopefully I don't do more of this crash and sideways stuff anytime soon. But anyway, it didn't hurt my riding. I knew I was torn up over there and I was kind of bloody, but whatever. I was gonna worry about that later. Um, and the way that the course goes, there's a before that there was one section from about between like mile 25 to mile 50 is where the roughest stuff overall is at. And I mean, there was one place where there was a stream crossing where you rode through it, and it was, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 inches deep at the worst. It wasn't too deep, but you really couldn't see what was at the bottom of it. But there was a guy down there telling everybody, like, just, it's easy. Oop, not spilled my coffee. Easy stream crossing. Don't slow down. Just ride through it. You can ride through it, no problem. So I did. It was one of those things you really had to trust what he was saying, because you couldn't. You saw water there, but you couldn't see if it looked like there were good rocks to ride over or what. But went through that no problem. Then there's a steep uphill, which enough people got slowed down and kind of create a bottleneck. So a lot of people were walking their bikes. You pretty much had to get off and at least wait, if not walk your bike up. But anyway, kind of working your way through stuff like that, a lot of these ups and downs and the hills. And I got to the top of this one where, you're climbing up the hill and you get to the top, and I don't know what I was expecting, but all of a sudden you see over the edge at the downhill you're looking at, and it was steeper than I expected. It wasn't really wet and sloppy, but there was a section at the bottom which was, I don't know if there's like a spring or something that came out of the hillside or something, but it was a little bit wet there, a little bit of like minor mud, and it's just like kind of like a 2-track sort of road. It's not a full-blown like regular gravel road. And I just like, I kind of crest the edge of this. I look down and see what I'm about to go down, and I just like spontaneously blurted out to myself, holy shit. So I was just so, it was just like, that was like my like, that was what my brain spat out. I didn't even think about it. It just kind of came out like that. But I just, I slowed it down with the brakes a bit, got through that kind of tricky wet spot at the bottom, and it was rode up the other side of it, sort of thing. So all that went well. But anyway, so you're right, about half of the course, then mile 50 something is the town of Council Grove. And for the 100-mile route, that's where you have it's like a checkpoint aid station thing where you can have like a support person meet you and switch out your water bottles, get you more food to eat, spray off your bike or whatever it needs to be, work on your bike, whatever. So my wife met me. She was there, and she did a really great job of being my support person. I got my water bottle switched out, put some eye drops in my eyes, because I've had problems with my eyeball actually getting dried out on rides in the past. But I got resupplied, headed out. But she said that she had been watching my times on this tracker deal, and she said that I had, like, my average speed had been whatever it was, and that it looked like I had actually been speeding up, I think, coming into Council Grove. And as I rolled out, she said, try to keep your speed up, try to keep your average speed up. And what really kind of surprised me was going into the ride, I had this goal that if I could ride at about average 15 miles per hour, I'd be able to get back to Emporia in time to watch the Elite Men's 200 finishers come through. But as I was doing my training rides and stuff, it just didn't seem like that was going to be all that possible. So I essentially gave up on hitting that average. But I was actually riding about that speed. So the whole second half of the race, I just had my wife's words, just try to keep up your average speed in the back of my head. And I pushed it with really everything I could, and my legs were trying to cramp on me and stuff, so I couldn't push it to the point I was going to start cramping and that sort of thing. But I just kept pushing it, tried to keep my speed up, and at the end, overall I finished with a faster average speed than I thought that I would. I was happy with my time because I think I was essentially, overall, of all the 100 riders, I think I was basically at the tail end of like the first third of the finishers, which is better than what I was when I did that Flint Hills gravel ride. I was kind of the complete opposite there. I think I was like the front end of like the last third on that one. But yeah, I was really happy with my time. And there's this one hill. It's actually, once you get back into town, it's on pavement. It goes up beside Emporia State University, and it's not that long, but it's pretty steep. And I rode up that thing with about everything I had left, and I got to the top, and I had that like tunnel vision thing going on where I could see my handlebars down beneath me, and I knew like how close I was to the top of the climb, sort of thing. But everything outside of that was just, black. My brain wasn't processing any of that sort of thing. And that hill, they actually call it Hot Dog Hill. It's a street called Highland, but it's Hot Dog Hill because they hand out hot dogs up there. But I was just focused on giving all I had and getting to that finish line as fast as I could. That last like mile I had left or whatever, if even a mile. So I didn't grab a hot dog, but yeah, it went well. I was happy with my time and my average speed. Uh, it's kind of made me wonder though if I shouldn't try doing the 200-mile race. That's what the Unbound or the Dirty Cans originally started out as. In the 100, it was a challenge. I mean, I'd done 100-mile rides before, and I'd done a few 100-mile rides on gravel roads leading up to it as training rides. So, but I knew the Unbound course overall would be more of a challenge, and I met that, and I was happy I did that. But it wasn't the type of challenge where I knew I was going to have to really strive and really dig deep and accomplish something that was like something that was harder to believe maybe I could accomplish, I guess. So I've been kicking around the idea of doing the 200, and being there at the race kind of inspired me with that, of course. But and it's also different though. I'm used to going out and riding by myself and doing these long rides where it's just you, the road, the conditions, the weather, that sort of thing. When you ride with something where there's other riders with you and around, it's different, and it's kind of hard to describe why. Some of it's just like when you're riding into the wind, you can draft behind somebody. At least part of the time, it saves you a lot of effort, like about a third of the effort, just because they're cutting that wind resistance for you, stuff like that. But it's not only that; you just have this extra kind of motivation mentally to ride a little bit harder, I guess, and to kind of keep up that effort when you're riding with other people. And it's not even necessarily a competitive thing. I mean, it can be for some people, but it's just, I don't know, it gives you this little extra drive. So I had this idea of how hard in my head it would be to ride 200 miles by myself, essentially, whereas I know how that race goes. It's a bit different than that. You do get to, especially towards the later miles, I know it spaces out quite a bit to where you are sometimes probably really are riding by yourself. But and one last thing, because this is getting really long, I noticed I noticed two things. One of them I noticed when I did that Flint Hills gravel ride, but to kind of a lesser extent, and that was in the late miles of that ride / race, whatever, when things were really spaced out. All the riders I came across, I slowly passed them. There was like 3 or so of them. But I would slowly catch up to them, and I would get by them, and they never tried to like get on my wheel. A lot of this was into the wind. None of them ever tried to like get on my wheel and ride behind me, draft behind me or anything. So I just kind of kept going, sort of thing. But with Unbound, in the later, like the last quarter of the race or something like that, and it gets a little tricky because there's different people riding different lengths towards the end of it, so you can't always tell like who's riding what. But I just noticed that I mostly went past people. I do think that there may have been some 100 riders that passed me, a few, but for the most part, all the riders I was coming up on, I was slowly coming past them. And on the climbs, the last hill climbs, every single time on those, and I wasn't going up them fast, but every single time on all those climbs, I always climbed a little bit faster than everybody else. I always went past them. And what it has made me start to wonder is if I just all those years of going out on these long solo longer distance bike rides, I wonder if that hasn't kind of built me into more of a long haul endurance rider. I've long known that I don't ride with a lot of power output. I'm not good at doing like shorter rides at faster speeds. I struggle to even keep up with groups, like on group rides when they're going really fast. So I know I'm not a power output rider. And I always thought I was more of a long haul endurance rider, but I'm really starting to wonder if, based on some things I've seen on these races, if that isn't actually the case. And I'm not saying I'm anything special in that regard. I just had like a little bit of an edge, maybe.